This is Catholic Forum. I'm Bob Krebs, and today our topic is St. Francis Xavier Shrine at Old Bohemia in Warwick, Maryland. It is the the first Catholic church in the Diocese of Wilmington, and my guests today are from the Old Bohemia Historical Society. Clarice is the former president, Clarice Kwasnieski, and Marla Dill-Palmer is the vice president of the Historical Society, and Ginny Swyka is the president. And ladies, thanks so much for being with us on the program today. It's a church, it's a topic, it's a historical place that all of us love here at the diocese, and I know you love it even more because you're so involved. So before we begin, tell us a little about yourselves, if you would, please. Let's just start with you, Clarice.
So I'm a member of St. Joseph Parish in Middletown, Delaware. Been married 37 years now, and I'm a product of Catholic education for 16 years, as were my two children. And currently I'm working at Christ the Teacher School as the Director of Advancement.
Great. That's one of our many great schools in the Diocese of Wilmington. Thanks for coming today. Marla, how about you?
Well, I was born and raised in Delaware. I was born and raised in St. Joseph's Parish in Middletown also.
Oh, wow.
As were my parents and my grandparents. So it's kind of a legacy. And I've lived my whole life here. I have a bachelor's degree in apparel design from the University of Delaware. I am married to Roger. We've been married for 22 years. And it's always been a part of my life. I'm very involved in the church and in Old Bo.
Great. And how about you, Ginny?
I'm also a lifetime resident of Delaware. I'm actually a member of St. Basil's Ukrainian Catholic Church in
awesome.
Chesapeake City, but grew up in between Middletown and Chesapeake City, and I'm recently retired and keeping busy with my volunteer efforts, this being one of them.
Yeah. Ginny, let's start with you. How did you get involved with Old Bohemia?
I was involved with a cleaning and beautification project in St. Rose of Lima Churchyard. Rich Beckwith and I worked together to clean the headstones, take care of some landscaping, and Marla noticed our efforts along with Tom Kane Sr., who retired from Catholic Cemetery after over 50 years of service, and Marla asked if we would consider assisting with the needs of Old Bo. And 2 years ago, I joined the board along with Rich, and now trying to work on beautification and restoration efforts there.
That's wonderful.
Thank you.
How about you, Marla?
I've been involved my entire life. I can't remember not being involved. My parents were very active, my grandparents also. Since the society was formed in 1953, my grandfather was on the first board.
Wow.
And he was grounds and maintenance. And it was a labor of love for our families. I don't remember not being a part of it. I've been a member and on the board actually for over 30 years.
Wow.
And hopefully going strong with it.
Great.
Yeah.
Clarice.
So I got pulled into the board in about 2003. We were getting ready to celebrate the tercentenary of the St. Francis Xavier Shrine. My husband had been on the board for many years prior to that, and they needed somebody with help who had computer savvy. So I was the person that they pegged for that. And of course, that first meeting they asked me to be secretary too. So I've been an officer for many years along the way. But once it gets in your blood, you just can't get away from Old Bohemia. So it's a pretty special place.
So it's located in Warwick, Maryland, which is just a mile or so from the Delaware line, I guess.
Yes.
It was started in 1704 by the Jesuits. Take it from there. What is so special? Why is it such a special place?
Well, so in 1704, Father Mansell had to leave Maryland, or Baltimore area, because of the persecution. So a lot of people think that the United States was founded on religious freedom for all religions. Well, that really wasn't the case. If you were a Puritan, that was fine. But depending upon the whims of the monarchy in England, that was if you were okay to be a Catholic or not to be okay a Catholic. So there was persecutions again in Maryland, and Father Mansell, who was a Jesuit, hightailed it out of town and came up the Bohemia River and landed in Warwick, Maryland, and started the plantation there in 1704. And at the time, there was just a log cabin there, but they pretended they were gentlemen farmers. And then on the weekends, the priests that came to help him would travel a circuit to the different Catholics that were in the area. They actually went all the way up and down the eastern coast of Maryland. They were into Delaware, Pennsylvania, even over into New Jersey and into New York, offering help to the Catholics that were spread out in the area. But they had to be very secretive about it.
Right.
So it was tough life.
Yeah, I can imagine. So they had to keep it secret until when? Was it after the Revolutionary War?
So it was actually after the Bill of Rights was signed was when they could first build a Catholic church.
Right. And is that when the first church was built
Yes.
on site?
Yes. So 1792 was when the church was built. They obviously had buildings there. In fact, three very famous people went to school at St. Francis Xavier, or Bohemia Academy is what the priest called it. One was John Carroll, who's the first bishop or archbishop of the United States. His cousin, Charles Carroll, was the only Catholic signer of the Declaration of Independence. Mm-hmm. And then their cousin, Leonard Neal, also attended the school that the Jesuits had started there. And he's the second archbishop of the United States. So three very important people in the history of the United States were educated starting there.
Yeah. What else should we know about the history of St. Francis Xavier Shrine?
So in the Diocese of Wilmington was founded in 1868, and then the Jesuits were starting to pull back. They had already established many parishes in the area, and including St. Joseph Middletown and St. Rose of Lima in Chesapeake City. But they gave it back to they gave the land to the diocese in 1898. Mm-hmm. So that's how it became the mother church of the Diocese of Wilmington when it was given to the diocese.
It was part of the Archdiocese of Baltimore previously?
Yeah, well, yes, it was, and the Jesuits were running the show at that point.
Right.
They had been running the show.
Yeah, great. So what can folks see when they visit the shrine these days?
Right now, unfortunately, individuals are able to view the outside of the shrine. The church, the rectory, the sacristy that we have there. They can see the barns that we have in place there because the plantation was over 1,000 acres in its prime, where we have so many individuals who really founded that area laid to rest in the churchyard, to include Miss Kitty Knight, if you've ever eaten at the Kitty Knight House, her uncle, who was also a signer or a member of the Congress for Maryland, representing Maryland back in the day. Mr. Kayat, if you've driven down 213 to Kayat's Corner, Mr. and Mrs. Kayat are laid to rest down there. So there's a lot of individuals who were founding members laid to rest in the churchyard. Unfortunately, we are closed right now because of some very extensive renovations that we need to have done. But when we open back up, we have so many artifacts. In Old Bow, we have the vestments that were worn by the Jesuits that date back to the 1700s and 1800s. We have a number of religious artifacts, including the little pocket Bibles that the priests would travel with in order to not be caught with a big book and thrown in jail.
Right.
You can see the inside of the beautiful church where we have one of the bells that came over with Father Mansell from years ago. And you can visit the rectory that was used by the Jesuits. We hope to open up our barn museum, our farm museum in the near future, where we have a number of artifacts that were used by the Jesuits to run the plantation hundreds of years ago. We've just gotten new barn roofs on those, and we are diligently working again to open it back up and share the site.
You mentioned you refer to Old Bohemia as a plantation, and it was a plantation, which with its inference of there were African slaves, enslaved people who worked for the Jesuits, which is a sad part of American history, but it is something that we should recognize,
Sure,
yes. For sure. So the current status is that the church and the buildings are not open to the public, but people are welcome to come in and walk the grounds and so forth,
Yes,
right?
yes.
The current church that's there was built in when? When was that?
1794.
1794. Great. And there's gardens, and I remember last time I was there the boxwoods were there, and of course the beautiful cemetery that you mentioned with so many historic figures there. What type of renovations are being done?
Well, we have an issue where we have a sinking floor in the church. Unfortunately, it has a very small crawl space, and we have floor joists that were laid right on the ground, so we have a sinking floor. The altar is starting to sink. The choir loft walls are pulling away. So we are going to have to replace the floor that's in there, and we hope to do that with a vapor barrier and a concrete slab, and then putting the floor back in place, so we won't have to worry about it in the future.
Right.
We have the barns. Again, we just put new roofs on the barns. We have to go ahead and replace some siding on those barns and some windows on those barns and really tighten them up and get them cleaned up before we can reopen the museum. We need to put new roofs on the rectory and sacristy. Those will be the last ones that we need at the site, because we can see that the cedar shake is curling, and we want to make sure that everything is watertight and solid for years to come. So those are the projects that we're focused on right now.
Yeah. And I would think with all of those buildings being as old as they are, these renovations are quite expensive.
Exactly. We are expecting to receive the project proposal from a wonderful individual, Polignuto at EDIS, the middle of this month. And we are going to have to look with the diocese, talk with the diocese, and prioritize our projects and definitely raise funds. We could definitely use some support, source of funding or building materials, or individuals who can spread the word about Old Bo and support us when we have fundraising events, and obviously when we have Mass. Come and join us, and come please support us by sharing the word of Old Bo. We have so many people who have visited who are local, and they had no idea that Old Bo is out there. So we're going to need some significant financial support. But again, individuals who would be able to, or businesses who could donate materials to us on this reconstruction effort, we would appreciate all the support that we could get.
What else? What else do we need to know about Old Bo?
When we do open back up and individuals come out, they will also be able to see some pictures that we have of the church when it burned on January 1st of 1912. We had potbelly stoves in the church, and we had a cedar shake roof on it, and hot cinders landed on the roof. The entire church burned. Right. But the church was so important to the community and to the parishioners. It was rebuilt and open again for Mass in November of that same year. So there's lots of history, too much for us to talk about in the 20-25 minutes that we have here together. So many things that I can describe to you, but really the benefit is seeing them in person. Yeah. And we will share more information with those who come.
Yeah. The church is part of the parish of St. Joseph in Middletown, correct?
Mission Church, yes.
So St. Joseph's of Middletown has the sacramental part?
Correct.
And then you bring in Jesuits occasionally, because the Jesuits have a long history.
We were fortunate that the Jesuits decided to come for a retreat day in September of 23. And so we got to know many of the priests when they came to visit, and I had approached them about starting First Saturday Masses, and we started that in April. with having Jesuit priests come from Georgetown and some of their other facilities. And we did it for many months until the floor situation got a little too scary for us to have more people come in. But it was wonderful having the Jesuits there celebrating. They enjoyed it, and we had folks coming from all over to see the church and participate in for Saturday ceremonies.
Awesome. How can we help the society? How can we help the funding of these projects?
Donations would be greatly accepted for our projects and our needs down at Old Bow. We also have a book that was written by Margie Martiniak and Father Peterman about the history of Old Bow, Old Bohemia, I believe it's 1704 to 2004, which is full of information regarding the Jesuits and their efforts and the history of Old Bow. That book is available for sale. We also have a beautiful print that was done of Old Bow in the snow that we do have available for sale as well. And people can go onto the website and look at the materials that we have and reach out to us from there regarding their interest.
What's the website?
Well, right now, the website, we're working on the website to revamp it. But everyone can go on and see what we have so far. The URL is www.St. Francis Xavier Shrine. That's STFRANSI or CIS, sorry,
Right.
XAVIER Shrine SHRINE.org.
Right.
And you can check back frequently because we will be working on that. Unfortunately, I haven't set it up to be visible on a cell phone.
Right.
Because I just tried to do that last night and found that out.
Didn't work. Right?
Didn't work. So you can't really see much of anything. But I would say if you want information, if you have questions, the best thing to do is to send us an email. And our email address is oldbohemiahs@gmail.com. That's Old Bohemia GS. HS.
It's not high school. It's Historical Society.
Historical
Exactly.
Society.
Historical Society at gmail.com.
Okay.
And we would be happy to answer any questions you have. And we can also send you our latest newsletter that we have via email. I guess some of the other things that would be really good to take a look at when you go down to Old Bow is the cemetery. It's beautiful. It's a very, very peaceful place. There's something so spiritual and peaceful that it draws you in. And everyone that has come down there has said, this place is so incredibly peaceful. The peace just comes over you, and it draws you in. The cemetery is still going strong.
It's an active cemetery.
It is an active cemetery. In the beginning, when Frank Crastle started the Old Bohemia Historical Society, and he gathered his group of friends that were willing to help and renovate everything, my grandfather, one of his projects was the cemetery. And the only thing that was there was the front part where Kitty Knight is, which is against the church, and a lot of the older stones from the people that had been parishioners there. When he passed away, my mother took over, and her and my dad expanded the cemetery. At that point, it was no longer part of the Old Bohemia Historical Society.
Right.
Because it was now going to be a functioning cemetery. We had to go by the rules and guidelines of Catholic cemeteries. So St. Joseph's bought that portion of it and laid out plans of expansion. And my mom and dad expanded the center section where the cross is. There's a beautiful rose granite cross in the center that my mother for many years raised money to have put there. And when that section was full, I started working with her and took over and we started another small section where the columbarium is. There's the granite rose columbarium. And now I'm running out of graves there, and because Middletown is growing just exponentially, it's
Right.
a bit overwhelming. So what we've done is when you drive in, it's a circular driveway into the cemetery. When you drive in and you look to your right, you're going to see an open space, and that is where Section D is our new section. And Ginny and I were out there yesterday mapping out where I wanted the trees. So it's going to be beautiful. It's going to be mimicking the other section to the left of it, and it's just going to be a continuation going into the field. The field right now is being farmed, and so we just sort of carved a niche out of the farm area, and that will be our new section, and that will probably outlast me.
Yeah.
So,
Wow. So if you're looking for a place to spend eternity where it's very, very
Yes,
peaceful,
it is a beautiful place.
because the whole idea back when the shrine was founded was to be kind of off the beaten path, not to draw attention
Yes.
to you because you were actually breaking the law by having priests there.
Correct.
So it's kind of tucked away. It's still very rural. You mentioned that Middletown is booming, which it has been for the last 30 years, but
Yeah.
it's still very quiet there at Old Bohemia. So
you feel like you are out in the middle of the country, and it's funny. My husband and I were married there, and a lot of our friends came from New Jersey and New York, and they're driving, they're thinking, where the heck is this place? Where are we going? Because when you're driving down Church Road, you can see the steeple. So you're thinking, oh, well, there it is. Well, this road just keeps going and winding, but once they got there, it's something they still talk about today. That it was just so beautiful. So yeah, I highly recommend it.
Well, Clarice, Marla, and Ginny, thanks so much for being with us today on Catholic Forum. Are we forgetting anything?
There is one thing I would like to share with you regarding the cemetery and
Yeah.
the topic of slavery. It's very interesting. We have another book that was put together by the Old Bohemia Historical Society called Old Bohemia 1704 to 1976, and it talks about the help that individuals had years ago. When you look at the cemetery, you will see family lots of different names, and at the end of those lots, you will see field stones. And those field stones were laid to rest to mark the graves of the help the family had. They were also very interested in the spiritual growth of their help, and they would witness baptisms and weddings. And I just find that very interesting. I mean, when there is documentation that there was a purchase of help by different individuals, but it wasn't a life of indenture. They would purchase 18 years of service for $150. So I believe that the Jesuits and the Catholics at that time did respect that it wasn't right to own a human life,
Right.
but they were able to get some help with their needs around their plantations and around the home. So it's very interesting to me to see that they were considered part of the family and given a place of eternal rest right next to the family members. So there's some very interesting history down there.
Very good.
Yeah.
So the place to go for more information is stfrancisxaviershrine.com.
.org.
And to email, it's oldbohemiahs@gmail.com.
Correct.
All right, very good. Thank you so much for being with us today on Catholic Forum.
Thank you
Thank
for
you.
inviting us.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate it.